What are 5 things we need in air maps? More specifically, RB. Hello guys, once again it's Matt. Thank you all the members and patrons. Make sure to subscribe. And yes, we have 5 things that I think we need added, especially for air RB maps, but even SB as well. So let's get into it. The first one would be obviously new types of objectives. Seed, which is suppression of enemy air defenses, so basically hunting down AA systems. Anti-ship, precision striking, large bombing areas, etc. Stuff to do besides killing each other in the middle of the map, bringing a lot more diversity on even the type of aircraft that we can actually have in the game, right? So that would be amazing. I mean, imagine a seed mission in the middle of a map that you love, right? So it would be very, very cool to do that. But it's not only that, obviously, right? The second one is, with more objectives, with more types of objectives, they need to think well on what will be in each part of the map. So, since having more objectives but making people play in the same area will, again, only lead to the same type of gameplay, people basically playing a deathmatch, means that we need a map that have spread out objectives. We need more objectives, not only the same type of ground target as we had in the past 11 years, together with bombing targets. We need more than just these two types of targets, and they need to be more well thought on each map and more spread out. There are basically just, especially in the RB maps, the simulator battles, it's a little bit better, but even then it needs to be well thought. But in RB specifically, it is basically just a larger arcade battle, right? So it's too simple. It needs to be a little bit more complex with different objectives and different types of missions that every single type of aircraft can do. That would lead to more types of aircraft that can be added, leading to more fun, basically, and even more grind and more silver lions and more stuff like that. So it needs to be well thought about, but still, I think it would be a big help. Okay. The third one kind of wraps it up between the three of them, the first three that I wanted to talk about. It needs to have a balance in that it basically needs to try to minimize the problem of running away people that we have in EC maps, for example. We are not having that many EC maps anymore, or including confrontation maps, the really, really large ones. But the thing is that those maps are the perfect ones for War Thunder. But the problem, maybe a little bit less in size, but larger maps, I think, especially for top tier, are the way to go. But there is a problem here. In such large maps, people can passively play the game, which is a problem, so it needs to be a balance between these three that I talked about. It needs to be not only focused on one type of gameplay, deathmatch, in one part of the map, in a very small map. It needs to be a larger map. But not only that, it needs to have spread out objectives, but not in a way that makes people play passively. You need to have some form of way of not having to deal with a player that is just running away very, very far away, right? So the map itself needs to be combined onto that idea. It would be needing a lot of tests and, of course, a lot of input from the community. I think the community is the key here. They are normally going to use more of the community lately. You can see that they are trying to do that. So use the community to ask what they want. Test it out on the proper servers. Ask the community X or Y, or leave the comments, etc. Right? The feedback would be immensely here, but it needs to be a balance between the three that we talked about, right? The fourth one is even going to help a little bit with that passive gameplay as well. If the map isn't well thought about, we might need something that it's a little bit more active to actually find targets, but not in the way that it works right now. So maybe for larger maps or even simulator battle maps, we need a form of early warning radar, an EWR or an AWACS, right? Or something that as a consumable, or I don't know, something like a blind hunt. But the thing is that the blind hunt is basically a magic target that's is on someone's back, right? And it doesn't even work in simulator, if I'm not mistaken. So we need something more realistic, something that you have a button to ask where is the nearest target, for example, or a group of target or something like that. And the AWACS or the EWR would give you your own personal, response, basically being directly to you, with nobody else listening or something like that, to not be too confusing, and a general direction. So, for example, the next target is at 180 at 20,000 feet or 10,000 meters or whatever the altitude the aircraft is, right? That way, it's not a blind hunt, but it's a general idea on where the target is. That would help a lot on the passively problem playing the game that I was talking about before, right? It would really help with that, and not be too OP as well, because it's not a magic target on the back of an enemy, right? It's not even unfair with that enemy, because that enemy will have that against you as well. So it would be more realistic and a little bit more technical, okay? And the last one, and especially for higher tiers, we need a balance between RP and Silver Lion games versus the amount of players that we have in the game. So the thing is that I believe that, especially for top tier, as I said, I believe that for the maps that they are creating, maybe changing the maps would make this obsolete, but for the maps that we are playing normally, sometimes there are too many people playing around, which means that it gets too crazy, basically, right? The matches are too... you cannot have a situational awareness that it's good enough for you to actually stay alive sometimes, of the amount of players that are in the same area. That can be fun for some people, but when you have all aspect missiles with proper ICCMs, and we're not even in the 90s yet with that type of missile, you can imagine that even having the situational awareness can not be enough, right? So something needs to be done, especially for top tier and going to the future, to maybe take it down the number of players, or balance it out with the amount of other stuff that I talked about, with the large maps and objectives and stuff, but in a way that maybe take down the number of players, but also increase the number of Silver Lions and RP to compensate, of course. That would help players basically play better and smartly, being able to actually properly keep an eye out on the situational awareness of the battle, right? So I think that would be a really, really big help. And these are the 5 things that I think we need in Air RB especially, and a little bit in Simulator as well, to have a proper, future-proof, fun game to play, even if we get an F-35 in the game or not, right? So yeah, leave it in the comments what is your opinion on this, and what would be your idea on it, a thing that could be changed in the air maps. But yeah, I see you guys on the next one. Make sure to subscribe,